Hello, how's it going, everyone? So, I think you should be able to mute yourself if you have anything to say. Feel free to unmute yourself and then just or comment in the comment box, and that way we're able to answer any questions for you. And I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Eduardo Alonso. I go by Lalo, so feel free to call me that as well. And I'm a career and industry specialist with Career and Professional Development Services. And today we're going to be talking about effective networking and what are some things that you could be doing to uh, to maintain and obtain new relationships and expand your network through these virtual times that I know most of us are somewhat familiar with technology and the different platforms, but now is a very important time for us to actually maximize the use of those platforms and get the most out of them. So, Gracia, where do you want to introduce yourself? Do you want me to go ahead and get started? Okay, so first, thumbs up. Can you all see my screen or can you connect? Awesome. Um, so yeah, like I said before, we're start by talking about some ways that are effective to networking, some of the things that maybe you're already doing, and best practices that we always recommend. So the first thing that we want to do is actually talk about how to maintain those personal networks that you already have, whether it is with classmates, friends, family, um, professionals that you're currently working with or have worked in the past. It is important that you maintain these relationships moving forward, especially if you have had any sort of interactions in the past with them in a professional level. We'll also talk about some of the online experiences, presence that you can have in the next couple months and then moving forward to make sure that everything on your online profile is staying up to date and is actually reflective of who you are as a person, as a professional, and what are some of the things that you have done to get to your next step. So that is one thing that I always keep in mind is what is the reason that you have those different platforms. And lastly, we'll touch on a few um, systems that you may already be familiar with, such as LinkedIn um, and the Sundevil network. So just depends, or if you want to unmute yourself really quick, did anyone attend the previous workshop or session that went over the ASU Mentor Network on LinkedIn? No, I don't think anyone attended. Yes. Okay. So two of you attended. Awesome. Great. That is good to hear. We're actually going to be referring to some of those things that you already heard a little bit about. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer any of those as we go. So feel free to interrupt me at any time. Okay. We are in a small session, group enough where I want to make this as interactive as possible. So the first thing that I always recommend for you in your networking opportunities is identifying who you already have contact with. So this could be different friends and family that are in a current field that you're interested in going to. It could be something that you're interested in or something that you know might pique your interest, but you don't want to necessarily make a career out of it. It's always important to just have those conversations and reach out to learn more about your career options. We'll talk about effective ways of communications. So what is appropriate, especially here um, in the United States, if you're thinking of working here in the next couple months, in the next couple years, what are some acceptable ways of reaching out and asking for some of those information, some of the things that we're used to. The use of social media is another big thing. So if you, some of the most popular platforms right now, uh, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, I think is the other one. So some of those platforms can be very popular and can be the first thing that people see when they Google your name. So thinking about some of the things that they're seeing when they're uh, coming across your profession, your profiles, not only professionally but the personal on the personal end as well. We'll talk about professional organizations, which are things that you all can be getting engaged in. And like I said before, the Sun Devil Network, which is a platform that can help you get in contact with current ASU professionals, faculty, and staff, as well as alumni. So like I said, I actually want to make this as engaging as possible. So if you want to unmute yourself, please feel free to go ahead. Or if you just want to type it in the group chat, feel free to do that too. So what is one thing that you notice in this picture? What stands out? What is one thing um, that you know this encounter is pertained in an accurate manner? Anything that you would do differently? Both people are happy, satisfied, and in the negotiation. Seems like they are on the same page. Yes, so those are all great things. The other thing that I would, good eye contact and smiles. That is a great one. Smile, handshake, the suit style. Yes. So if you are going through, in this case, it looks like they are in a room. There may be negotiating. It could be salary, it could be a position, it could be an interview. So we don't necessarily know from just the picture. But what we can see in here is that they are both meeting halfway to shake hands, right? And as they do that, you can see they actually have a pretty good grip on each one of their hands. And it doesn't seem like either one of them is putting a little bit more pressure than the other one, making them feel uncomfortable. So it seems like they are on the same page, maintaining eye contact and good positive facial expressions. So that is a really good thing. That is one thing that you would normally see in any kind of a job environment, professional setting that you go into. That is the way that we would usually greet people, especially if you're meeting them for the first time. Going and shaking their hands is perfectly acceptable. But the important thing is that you do it in a way where you're being welcoming and you're smiling, you're open for that new interaction. So you have a good first impression. Now, the other thing that I would also consider, and a lot of people like to do as they go ahead and extend their hand for a handshake, is a lot of people actually stand when going for a handshake if it's the first interaction that you're having with that person. Um, okay, so can you all hear me okay? I think my audio just went out a little bit. Is this better? Awesome. Okay. So going back a little bit, the one thing that I would always try to do, especially if it's your first point of contact with someone, if you're just there first meeting them and you are at a table, I would actually try to stand up before you go for the handshake. It just shows that you have a little bit, it's a little bit more formal, it's a little bit more respect, and you're saying, hey, I acknowledge your presence, and I am going to stand up to acknowledge you and go for the handshake. So, what is networking? Who should you network with? It is okay and it's acceptable and it is encouraged for all of us to network with as many people as we want, as many people as we can. I'm sorry. So, if you can network with professors and ask them simple questions like, how did you get to Arizona State University? Uh, what inclined you to teaching this specific subject in your class? Did you ever think about being a professor, right? A lot of times you would find out that the people that you're talking to didn't necessarily, a lot of times, didn't necessarily think of that path that they're currently on when they were coming up in high school and college, um, even after graduation. And I can speak from this from experience. When I went to college, I actually graduated from ASU, and I thought I was interested in policy. And I said, I'm going to work at a city level, and a local level in policy. And through my experiences in ASU and just talking to a few of my advisors and peers, I realized that I was already working at ASU. I knew a little bit about the university and the services that it provided. So I decided to stay, and I'm currently working in higher education, still helping students, but in a different manner, right? So that is a career field and something that I never thought I wanted to pursue until I started having these conversations with some of my peers and some of my advisors. So think about everyone that you talk to as a potential network that can help you get introduced to a new career field. So let's see here. Where can you network? Right. So we already said it is perfectly acceptable for you to reach out to someone who you've never met before, especially if it's online or face to face. It is okay for you to go up to them and introduce yourself. Practice saying your introduction, who you are, what you're studying, and some of the strengths that you've acquired through your past experiences. And then you can tell me why you're approaching me, why you're sending me that email, why are you reaching out to me via ASU Mentor Network, right? So um, career fairs is a great place for you to actually practice, like we saw a few slides back, your your eye contact, because you're actually standing in front of people and having to think on the spot. There's no time for you to think about what you're going to say in your next email. Instead, you have to interact and answer any questions that you may be asked in that conversation. And you also have the chance to have a more fluid conversation and ask any questions that you have in your interaction. So I know that this right now in the times that we are, we may not have a lot of career fairs in person that you can attend and actually meet people face to face, but we still have virtual career fairs where you're able to log in similarly to the way that you're doing right now and interact with people in a smaller environment. So we always encourage you to put yourself outside of that comfort zone and know that it's okay and it is actually encouraged for you to ask questions and be interested in the opportunities that they have to offer. So the other way that you can start networking is by actually using your social media. So what are some of your peers doing if you have them on social media? Did they just get an internship? Did they graduate? Um, what struggles maybe they're having? Especially if you know someone that is maybe a semester or a year um, in advance of what your academic year currently is, you can start having those conversations. Hey, I'm going to be in your same situation or in a similar situation in 6 months. What would you advise me to do? Right? And you can have those conversations that may be a little bit more informal, but can actually prepare you ahead of time to know how can I search for a job? How are my peers doing it? Well, that may not be a route that I want to follow. So what do I need to do differently to make it a little bit more efficient for myself and my experience? Okay. So now this is uh, this is a great way to make connections with some of those peers. Right now, um, you can be involved in maybe an on-campus job, off-campus job. Maybe you're just going to school. Okay. But the one thing that I would always recommend is if you can and have a little bit of time to distress and not focus in school, I would actually go into the Sun Devil Sync page on ASU and search the different clubs and organizations that we have here at Arizona State University. And you can find a club pretty much for anything that you can think of. So you can conduct a general search and see where is this club located, what is their mission and values. Some of them are heavily focused on giving back to the community and providing um, days of service or providing volunteer work opportunities. Some of them are a little bit focused more on towards academics, and they have good study sessions, and oftentimes help each other to be successful in the classroom. So I would make sure to check this page and then just see which ones of them fit to some of the things that you want to do after ASU. Okay. So we have one question here, and it says, are these ASU clubs for graduate students too, or just undergraduate students? That's a great question. So there are clubs for both undergraduate and graduate level students. If you are interested in getting engaged and participating and growing your engagement with the ASU community, there is something for you out there. If for any reason you don't find a club or organization that speaks to your particular interest or a particular angle that you want to take for a student organization, um, there are some requirements. I believe I don't want to definitely tell you this is accurate information, but I believe you need two or three people who are interested in the same thing that you are, and that would be considered a club. Now, I'm not sure exactly on the number. It might be two, it might be three. But when you go into this website, you can find out more of that information. And basically, you would be running your own club. You get to determine what events and activities you want to do throughout the year, and you get to recruit your own members and see that growth. Now, that is an opportunity for networking, but it's also a great opportunity for you to grow your leadership skills. And if you are putting events throughout the year, you're probably going to be submitting requests for funding and promoting your own marketing. So how are you doing that? Are you doing that through social media? If you are, then you have an additional skill set that you can put into your resume. So these are all things that just by doing a simple thing like looking to get engaged, you are growing on all these different areas that are going to help you after you. Okay, and some of you already attended the previous the ASU Mentor Network. This is a great opportunity for you to think. Okay, if my degree is, for example, engineering or public health, what can I do after ASU? What companies are actually looking for candidates with my background? Okay. And then you can look for mentors using the different search features to find someone that has a similar background to yours or that had similar interests to yours and is now in a position that is willing to connect with you and find out and help you get to to a company that they're currently in. And then LinkedIn, of course, LinkedIn is a wider page that people have access to. When you go into the um, ASU LinkedIn page, you will have the option to look through the different filters and see where are some of the graduate Sun Devils going. Are they staying in Arizona, Phoenix area, East Coast, West Coast? Are they going outside of the country? And if so, what are some of the companies? What are some of the roles that they're currently working in? And how can I get to that point? In some cases, you can see their entire resumes on the page. So you can see some of the experiences that they had maybe in undergrad, um, what was their first position or full-time position right after ASU, and you can ask those questions, right? Um, Now, when creating your LinkedIn account, you also want to make sure that you provide as much information as possible to allow the reader or the person that you're contacting a better understanding of why is this person reaching out to me right now, right? Is it because we have a similar background in our degrees? Is it because we intern in the same place? So make sure that when you are creating your profile, you go through these different things. So make sure that you have a headshot. It doesn't have to be uh, professional. It doesn't have to be taken by with a DSLR camera with a plain white background. But just make sure that the background is not distracting it's actually easy to recognize you. We can include a summary. So the summary can look at a lot of different ways. But if your profile is to network, you can mention that in your summary. So you can mention your degree, some of your experiences, and most importantly, what do you hope to gain out of some of these actions? Why are you creating this profile? Is it to have more exposure? Is it to network or to simply put your resume? Okay, but you definitely want to make sure that you get the most out of this platform. And the three sections you will see, those are very similar to some of the you already have in your resume. So this is education, listing your experiences, any volunteer experiences, skills that you've obtained, companies that you work for or volunteered. These are all things that if you have a resume are most likely going to be down somewhere. Right? So it's not going to take you to tailor your LinkedIn account if you already have some of these documents. Now, um, the one thing that I want to highlight is if you already have a social media platform, like for example, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, it is very easy to go in there and check your social media, right? If you see a video that you like it, you share it, you send it to your friends, and that is a way of networking. But you're not necessarily networking in a professional way. You're not sending lengthy articles. You're not sending job descriptions or future opportunities for them. It's more social, right? A way to stay active in LinkedIn is to go into someone else's profile, maybe a professor, maybe someone that presented in your class, and look at their skills section on LinkedIn. When you go down to the skills section on LinkedIn, you would actually see the option to add it. I think I believe it's a plus sign. Once you click that plus sign, it will turn into a check. And basically, what you're doing is you're endorsing that person's, for example, public speaking skills, right? So if you have worked with Garrett, you're the first one that I see on my screen. So let's say that you work with Garrett before, and you say, "Hey, Garrett, you have great leadership skills," and I see that you've actually listed that on your LinkedIn. I'm going to endorse you for that. So next time that I, Eduardo, go into Garrett's LinkedIn account, I can see that there are people who are speaking on his behalf, right? So I know that that's not just something that was put on there by mistake or just to make it sound good, but people are actually speaking for that person. So that is an easy way of staying engaged. And personally, if I see someone endorsing my skills, I'm going back to your profile and endorsing yours. So it's a mutual relationship. That is perfectly acceptable, actually, a way that we encourage you to stay active in this platform rather than just creating it and letting it sit there. Okay. Now, going back into your social media tools, they can be great resources. Um, they can be ways to connect with people. I know that the way that most social media platforms are created now, as long as you have someone's phone number to find them somehow on social media, which is kind of weird. But make sure that you don't put anything on your social media, pictures, articles, comments, or anything like that, that you think and you know that may not look, not may be perceived in a positive way by someone who is going to have the opportunity to hire you. Okay. So I would actually encourage you, before you share something, you like something on social media, think what does this say about me if someone who I've never met sees this? Okay, and that is a great way of approaching it. So The other thing that I want you to think about that we all do, and is the first thing that we think about our social media is, what do I need to hide? Right? After you've heard this, you're probably like, I've shared some pictures or I've said a couple comments that maybe I didn't mean it in a bad way, but it may come across um, uh, differently. Okay. So go back into your profiles and make sure that you clean up your social media. If they are public, make sure you do it. If they are private, definitely still do it. Um, don't think that because they're private, people are not going to have access to it. And the other thing is, don't only think about what do I want to hide. Think about what do I actually want people to find, right? So uh, think about think about it this way. If I've never met you, I don't have any of your social media platforms, your cell phone number, your email, and I see your resume in front of me, I'm probably going to go into Google and search your name, right? So think about, what do you want me to find? And that is where the ASU Mentor Network, where LinkedIn come into play, because those are things that you want to make sure stay active so that people actually find you on those platforms. And the first thing that they see is your LinkedIn account and not your Facebook, not your Instagram. Um, and those are easy ways to stay active and build a good, solid profile outside of your network. Now, one quick exercise that we have here, and I would love if you all can participate, is practicing your powerful introduction. I purposely left this towards the end after giving you some of that background, but this is something that you're always going to have to practice, whether it is an interview, a networking opportunity in a virtual manner, or even through an email, right? You, in a way, you still have to touch on introducing yourself. What are some of your interests, some of the past experience that you have, and also how do you hope to grow in the future, and why you're reaching out to me, right? So I can tell you a little bit about myself, kind of go backwards and get this started. So I can tell you, hello, my name is Eduardo, and I am currently a career and industry specialist with Career and Professional Development Services. In the past, I've worked in other ASU departments, working closely with first generation and low income students. So these experiences allow me to better understand the ASU student population and how to best serve them, communicate with them. In the future, I would like to continue to work with first generation and low income students in an educational setting. Okay. So I touched on these different sections, and that kind of allowed you the opportunity to understand a little bit about my background, and maybe now you have some questions, right? So feel free to jump in and try practicing this. If you don't want to practice because you don't want to put yourself out there with the rest of the group, that is totally fine. You can also ask some questions. So is there anything that wasn't clear that maybe you want to go over, or some things that you have noticed in the past that you may not be used to, that you would like clarification on? No, I don't think I see any questions. Okay, so let me ask this question. How many of you already have a LinkedIn account? And you can raise your hand on the comment box. Okay, so most of you already have a LinkedIn account. That's awesome. And how many of you are thinking of making updates after hearing either the previous section or this presentation? Do you still need to make changes? Okay, so we have a question here. So regarding social media, if I'm understanding correctly, is if you have a private social media account, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't know any other social media platforms aside from those. So let's say that you have private social media accounts. Will an employer be able to see what you're posting? Okay. Uh, so I would always from the angle of yes. Why? Because one, you don't want to risk having to say, well, I don't care what I share because I know that at the end of the day it's private. I'm just going to keep it private and no one is going to see it from my professional connections. So I would not only keep it private, but always approach it from as if it was public. Because if someone else in your network, in your Facebook friend list, shares that comment, shares that picture, takes a screenshot of it, and somehow makes it out of your account, even with sharing it, it would be making it out of your account. Then other people will be able to see it. So I would always approach it as yes, even if it's private, there is a way to see what you're posting. Okay, so the other question is, so are you saying that there is a way for your Facebook not to come up when I search your Google account or I search Google? That's not what I'm saying. So what I'm actually saying is, um, you want to make sure that the profile that comes up when I search your name is the most appropriate profile for your professional network. So chances are, if you are active on LinkedIn and you have a full profile and you have a solid number of networks within the LinkedIn platform, that is going to be one of the links that is going to come up first when I search your name. Okay. Whereas if the only social media that you have is Facebook and that is your most active platform, Google is going to think, hey, this is the first thing that you want to see because it's the platform that has the most amount of information. So that's what I mean by that. On Facebook, my friends have the ability to add to my timeline. She tags me in a lot of things I don't agree with and are hyper religious. In my opinion, will an employer think that my tag posts on my timeline represent me? So yes, anytime that you have things on your timeline, there are going to be individuals who may not look past the fact that someone else posted it on your timeline. So what I would actually recommend for your professional development and as you get closer to graduation is to go into your Facebook settings, and this is something that I've done in the past. Go into your Facebook settings and remove the access for people to tag you in posts that go into your timeline. So there is the option for you to say, even if people tag me, I don't want this to appear on my timeline, right? So then you are the only one who has access for your image, right? You don't have to worry about going in there and manually deleting things. Awesome. These are great questions. Just change to a different account name. What do you mean by that? Awesome. Okay. How do you all feel about networking and meeting people face to face on a virtual setting? Do you have a preference on how to meet people? And remember, you can always unmute yourself. You don't have to type your answer. Either way is good, but in person is more memorable. That is correct. There's a higher chance of people remember who you are if you talk to them in person. I prefer in person. However, I don't know what advantages does have over a virtual setting. So the biggest thing with advantages in meeting people in person over virtual settings, the same way that we're doing now, is it's always about the little things and being able to read body language, right? So right now, even though we are meeting and I'm interacting with you, answering any of your questions, um, for example, you don't know how if I'm meeting you for the first time, I don't know if you prepare for this meeting by wearing a full suit or if you're just, I don't know what your body language is. All I see is your shoulders and above, right? I'm not able to make eye contact as I would usually want to. I'm not able to shake your hand and have that natural flow in the conversation. Um, so that's why typically, like we said before, having a in-person networking opportunity or in-person conversation typically sparks those triggers that in our mind we're always looking for. Well, I don't. I like their body language. I like that I was able to talk with them and the flow of the conversation. Pretty shy and quiet around some people that have been from the career life for sure. Easy to open and confident. Mm. Mhm. Yeah, so there's always a positive um, to networking online. Definitely, you can have a lot of more conversations in a short amount of time without having to walk into a different building, having to commute. So that is the positive. You can connect with people all around the world. Um, and at the end of the day, is we're trying to make you comfortable with the idea of reaching out to people who you may not know, right? That is something that is perfectly fine, and people oftentimes like to talk about their background. So if you go up to any of your professors, I'm sure they'll be super excited if you ask them, "Hey, I love what you do. I love the concepts that you are talking about. Can you tell me more about your experience?" They will probably go on and on and on about their experiences, and guess what? They will probably remember you. All right. So next time that you have that conversation, it will be a good place to pick up. So we have other questions here. Okay, so I think the other positive you're mentioning here is that you may already have notes if you're in a virtual setting, right? If I understand that correctly, is you may already be going into the meeting and saying, "Hey, these are the things that I want to ask. These are the questions. Um, some things that I want to make sure I mention. Some things that I may want to stay away from." That comes with be comfortable being uncomfortable, is what I would tell you. Practice makes perfect. And if you ask me right now a question, I give you an answer. My answer may lead to a separate question that you may not have in your notepad. So be okay with just going with the flow, having an idea of the questions that you want to ask. Definitely have an idea, but also be open to asking new questions that you may not even have talked about. Because by doing that, you prevent um, follow-up questions or doubts. Let's say that going into this presentation, you had a set of questions and you asked me that set of questions, but I mentioned something that wasn't clear to you and you never asked me that question because it wasn't in your notepad. Then you're going to log out of this meeting and still have that question when you could have asked it in our meeting, right? So Super extreme example, but what I'm trying to say is, even if you have notes, make sure that you ask all the questions that you have at the particular point in time and make the most out of the opportunity. Okay, so I believe we still have 3 minutes. We still have 3 minutes. So let's see, we'll go over another question. What is a good icebreaker in a conversation? Are there any tips or recommendations on conducting with new professionals in an appropriate and fun way? Yeah, so I think that this is a great question. So a lot of times, how you break the ice and how you approach a conversation tells the other person a lot about your personality and how you're going to fit in an organization. For example, when you first step into the room for the interview, if that is the setting that you're in, right? So that is the other advantage of meeting people in person, is they're able to read your body language and to break the ice in a more fluent way. So if we were face to face, I would probably be able to tell if you are a little bit of a shy person or if you're a little bit more outgoing and like to and are very energetic, right? So I'll be able to tell that right away. So don't feel pressure to be super energetic, or don't feel pressure to to be someone who you're not. Instead, just own it. Say, I'm going to go into this meeting and I'm going to, like you see in the screen, introduce myself and just let you know why I'm here, why I'm interested in this role, and be authentic with myself and be authentic to what I'm trying to tell you and the opportunities that I'm looking for. And then from there, the conversation will kind of flow, and it could flow in a lot of different directions. Kind of goes back to that point. And be comfortable being uncomfortable and going over things that may not necessarily be in your notepad or your notes. And this comes with practice. Trust me, it's not something that is going to may come to you right away. But by doing some of these things, reaching out to people in the ASU Mentor Network or LinkedIn, or going to some of these events, is going to help you get there. So right now, for example, if I ask for anyone to unmute themselves, maybe it's your first time speaking in a setting like this, but guess what? Next time that someone asks you to unmute yourself is going to be your second time, and it's going to be better than the first time. So always look at these opportunities as opportunities that can help you grow. And even if it's not perfect the first time, the next time that you do it is going to be better. Brianna, so you share a link. That's a great resource. So if you can't see the comment box right now, you can copy that link, save that link for after our meeting. And those are some great resources that you can keep and bookmark. And then another way, kind of going back to the previous question, to make it interactive and build that connection, is don't be afraid to speak about yourself. Of course, you're making a professional connection, so most of it is going to be from your professional background and professional goals. But tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about who you are. How do you distress? How do you deal with difficult situations and make sure that you keep peace of mind when you are going through maybe a lot of deadlines? What do you do outside of work, outside of school? Maybe we have something in common, and the conversation will take us in a completely different way. Okay. Any questions? No. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Lalo. This has been a really great presentation on networking and building networks. Just want to thank you again for this presentation, and also want to thank all of the participants for really being engaged and asking great questions. I hope that you learned a lot. I just want to point out that our next session at noon today is an international employers and alumni panel. So if you are interested in kind of putting some of your networking into practice, we're providing an opportunity for you to connect with international employers and alumni who have lots of great global experience. So I definitely recommend attending that session, and I'm going to just copy the link for that into the chat box so you can copy and paste that link if you're interested. So that'll be starting at noon. And then Lalo's presentation is recorded, so I will make sure to send out a link to this recording next week in case you want to go back and watch it again. Also just want to say that, you know, if you want to follow up on this and meet with a career advisor to learn more about how you can network, maybe you want to go over your LinkedIn profile with one of our career specialists. That's something that you could do in a one-on-one meeting and have them kind of take a look at your LinkedIn or your ASU Mentor Network profile and give you tips and tricks about how to improve your profile. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can schedule an appointment through Handshake by clicking on the Career Center portion of Handshake in the upper right-hand corner. So just want to say that we're always available for that as well. So thanks, Lalo, and thanks everyone for participating, and hope to see you at the next session. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a good summer.